Namaste, everybody, and welcome to the 14th session of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Today, I will end chapter 2 with a talk on Yama and Niyama. But as always, before that, a quick recap. So, chapter 1, Samadhi Pata, in that chapter, Patanjali defines yoga as Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And basically, he says consciousness is pure awareness, but we don't experience it as such because it is constantly modifying with our thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And what we experience consciousness is as exactly those thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And yoga is a process that stops these vrittis, these disturbances of the mind, these thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And once the vritti stops, then you're absorbed in that pure awareness. And the modifications, the modifications are of 5 kinds: right knowledge, wrong knowledge, imaginary knowledge, no knowledge, and past knowledge. And the way to stop the vrittis are abhyasa and vairagya. So abhyasa and vairagya are the twin engines of yoga. Constant, undisturbed, uninterrupted practice and dispassion. Moving away from attachments and aversions. So these two are the twin engines of yoga. And once the vrittis are reduced, what happens is the yogi develops samadhi prajna or samapati or a meditative state. So then it becomes easy for the yogi to get into dhyan and samadhi. And samadhi itself, we saw, has 4 stages. The first stage is vitar, where the mind is still active. So there's a thought going on, but you can start distinguishing between different kinds of thought. It's not like one club thing. You can distinguish the different strains of thought. Then thinking then matures into observation. Then the mind just begins to observe. It becomes a sakshi. That's called vichar. And it further matures into reflection, sananda. That means everything is just reflecting. Then the mind becomes a mirror and everything is reflecting in it. And finally, asmita, or you get absorbed. Even that goes and you're just absorbed in pure awareness. The last stage is nirbija samadhi, when all the karmas are burnt, all the seeds of karma are burnt, and moksha or kaivalya is reached. So in the second chapter, Patanjali, Sadhana Pada, Patanjali addresses the middling yogi with Kriya Yoga. So the yogi is still not ready to go into samadhi, has not yet developed samadhi prajna. So he or she can develop it through Kriya Yoga. It comprises tapa, or the continued practice of Ashtanga Yoga, Abhyas and Vairag we talked about. And the objective is to reduce the hold of desires and the ego identification. With that, the mind is brought to peace. And when the mind is at peace, the second part of Kriya Yoga is Swadhyaya, or self-study. It is nothing but simply watching the inner mechanism. So once I asked my guru, he explains Sakshi, what is watching. So he says, Atul, you don't understand English? Watching means to watch. Whatever is there, watch. So but why it is called self-study is because when you watch, the mechanisms of the vrittis are revealed. You just watch the vrittis and you know where they're coming from, what's below each vritti, right? So that is why it is called self-study. And Ishwar Pranidhana is the next step. A mind made quiet with tapa, trained to become a sakshi with swadhyaya. It slowly develops the ability to get absorbed in the inner awareness. And Ishvara is nothing but your inner awareness. So Ishwar Pranidhana. So Tapa, Swadhyaya, and Ishwar Pranidhana are the three pillars of Kriya Yoga. After that, Patanjali talks about the roots of uh, human suffering. He talks about the Pancha Klesha, or the five afflictions. And the chief affliction is avidya. That means it is translated ignorant, but it is basically confusing your body, mind, or the world as real, while your consciousness as unreal, right? So avidya is the main affliction, and avidya leads to asmita, because if you identify with your mind body, then the ego sense develops. Also, mind body identification leads to raga and dvesha. That means you get attached to things that give you pleasure, and you have aversion for things that give you pain, right? And again, because of mind body identification, you have abhinivesha, which is, clinging to life. You want to cling to life. It's fear of death, right? And the way to resolve the pancha kleshas is to go backward. It's called pratiprasva. That means you resolve the effects into the cause. You start with abhinivesha. You get over your fear of death, but through vivek, through discrimination. Once you dissolve abhinivesha, raga dvesha dissolve by itself. Once raga dvesha dissolves, then asmita dissolves. And when asmita dissolves, avidya dissolves, right? And kleshas are the ones which create karmas. Because of your raga and dvesha, you develop passions, and passions drive you into action. And once you're driven into action, you create karmas. So it's a vicious cycle of kleshas creating karmas, karmas creating more actions, more kleshas, and this cycle goes on and on and on and on, right? And finally, Ashtanga Yoga. We covered Ashtanga Yoga in the last session. The 8 limbs of yoga, which is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. We covered that in great detail in the last session. The practice of yoga is the one which makes you overcome your kleshas and karmas, right? So, as always, today I'll talk about Yama and Niyama, but as always, I'll just share the slide. Just give me a moment. Yeah. So I just put 2 slides, but each of each. So ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha are the yamas. Non-violence, truth, honesty, sexual continence, and non-possessiveness are the 5 restraints. Now, in the Yoga Sutra, each of them have a sutra by themselves, which I have not put over here. But these are the yamas. I'll explain that. And Saucha, Santosha, Sat, Tapa, Swadhyaya, and Ishwar Pranidhana. That means cleanliness, contentment, austerity, self-study, and surrender to Ishvara are the observances. So yamas are the restraints, while niyamas are the observances. And these are the set of observances and restraints prescribed for the yogi. All right. Okay. So the 5 self-restraints are designed to subdue the ego and to reduce desire. So increase vairagya and to subdue ego identification. So ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha are exactly the same in Jainism also. The Jainism takes it to an extreme level. I mean, this is the mainstay of Jainism are these 5 yamas. They call it samyak charitra, or good conduct. And without it's a first step. Without good conduct, you cannot proceed further spiritually. So similarly in yoga, without these uh, restraints, you won't have the foundation to pursue yoga in a very serious manner. The only difference is that Jainism takes it to an extreme. As we know, they have taken ahimsa to an extreme, while yoga is more chilled about it. All right. So it is meant to purify the ego. It is not an easy practice, but it is what lays the foundation. Now, this is very important. The yogi who proceeds on the path of serious yoga. I'm not talking about the yoga we do, just asanas, which is in my mind alternative to gymming. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about serious yoga. A yogi who proceeds with yoga without subduing his ego will always run into a problem. And the reason is that as you proceed in yoga, you get siddhis, you get occult powers. We will discuss. There's one whole chapter on that, and from the next session we'll cover that. But occult powers the yogi gets. But if his ego, he is not completely, if there's even a trace of the ego, he will misuse that power. And he or she will misuse that power to the detriment of others, yes, of course, but greater detriment to himself or herself. They say that yogi falls so hard from the level which he or she has reached that it is very difficult for him or her to get back up again. So it is very important to, understand the mechanism of the ego, to understand the mechanism of desires, attachment, the mechanism of kleshas. And unless you do that, unless you have removed all trace of the ego, you cannot proceed further. And therefore, the yamas are designed to do that. It's a very, very important step for the yogi. In today's time, when we practice yoga, yama and niyama are not focused on, but it's extremely important. So let's start with the first yama, ahimsa. It means non-violence. It means non-killing. But very simply, it means to develop a aura of harmlessness. It is the absence of any harmful intent, right? And therefore, Patanjali makes ahimsa the first discipline. And harmlessness is a negative term, but when you develop this harmlessness, what happens is love develops. And love is very, very, very important because, in Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna is talking to Arjuna, he says, you are fighting your enemy, you're killing your enemy because you're fighting against adharma. But you have no ill intent against the enemy. You are fighting the war, the battle, because it's your duty. It's your duty to fight adharma. On the other side, maybe your grandfather, your teacher, your cousins. But it's your duty to fight adharma. But you have no ill intent against any of your enemies. With that bhav, you are fighting the war. So basically, ahimsa is love, right? And when you are completely absorbed in ahimsa, you are completely established in ahimsa, what you create is an whole aura of love around you, right? And even enemies, abandon enmity towards you. There's a magnetism which emanates from you. And others who move under this energy field abandon all hostility. So that is the gift of ahimsa. When you are steeped in ahimsa, you create an aura of love and grace around you. People who come in contact with you are disarmed by this love and grace. So just before moving from ahimsa, there is uh, a controversy around it. As I said, the Jains have taken it to an extreme. There is a philosophical view on ahimsa, which holds that some violence is unavoidable. It's in the nature of things. I mean, you will have to eat, so you'll have to be violent against the plant, right? It is absolutely unavoidable, and that's the nature of the things. So ahimsa is not no violence. Ahimsa is minimizing unnecessary violence. So don't kill animals, right? Don't fight unnecessarily. Don't fight for your ego. Fight for it as a duty. Fight for dharma, but not for ego. There's also the same philosophy goes on to say that if you are attacked by the enemy and you stand down, you're actually promoting violence, because the enemy will then go ahead and kill others. All right. So standing up to the enemy is actually promoting ahimsa. All right. So I'm just flagging it. Don't want to go into this controversy. There are views for it, against it, whatever it is. But I'm just flagging it so that there's no misunderstanding about ahimsa. So in my opinion, Mahatma Gandhi misinterpreted ahimsa. All right. The second Yama is Satya. And Satya is translated as truthfulness, but actually it means authenticity. It's being true to your being, to what you are, to who you are. And it has got three aspects. It is the first aspect, to so that you can be true to your being, is to develop a sensitivity towards your own inner voice and not be swayed by what everybody else says or what is normative, not that, but to listen to your own inner voice, to begin trusting your own inner voice. Then if you start listening to your own inner voice and following it, you will begin dancing with your own inner rhythm, and you will be put on the path towards your own destiny. And destiny is very, very deep. In my own life, whenever I have strayed away from destiny because of whatever my small reasons were, destiny would catch me by the scruff of my neck and put me back on its path. Okay, so you cannot. Destiny is there. You cannot fight it. But if you start listening to your inner voice, then you get into your own rhythm. Then you're just flowing with your destiny. If this happens, then the second aspect is that you will not wear a mask. You will express whatever it is with confidence. You'll express your anger non-violently. You will laugh, you will cry. And basically what will happen is you will not create blocks in your psyche. When you hold back, when you pretend, those emotions are suppressed and they kind of pull at you, right? But if you are authentic, then there are no blocks in your psyche. And with these two, you start humming like a very well-oiled engine. And then once that happens, when there are no blocks in your psyche, there are no adverse memories affecting you, then the third aspect is start living in the present moment. You start living in the here and now. And this is the depth of Satya. All right. And you can see that Satya follows from ahimsa. With ahimsa, you develop that love, you develop the sensitivity, which allows you to be authentic, right? And the gift of satya is that, the whole begins to work for you. You don't have to make any effort. It's like rivers don't have to make any effort to flow to the ocean. They flow effortlessly. So once you have ahimsa and satya, the whole begins to work for you, right? The whole begins to guide you. And, there's no effort in becoming this or that. This is what the Buddha calls tanha. Koi tanha nahi hai. Then the yogi is completely established in truthfulness. He attains the fruits of action without acting. The action is happening. Your destiny is acting. The whole universe is acting through you. You become an instrument, and the fruits happen. And there's nothing to be done. Everything happens, and the whole does it for you. So this is a gift you get when you are completely grounded in Satya. The third is asteya. It literally means non-stealing, right? And it does not only refer to material stealing. It includes stealing other people's thoughts, right? It includes being jealous of other people's possessions. And basically, without asteya, your mind is not free from desires. But with asteya, your mind becomes free from desires, and the inner space begins to flower. You're not bothered about what others have. And a yogi established in non-stealing, when he's totally established, he gets a siddhi of intuitive awareness, of clairvoyance, because the entire personality has been cleaned, and personality becomes a mirror. It can reflect things, right? And that's where clairvoyance comes from. The fourth Yama is brahmacharya. Now, this is the explanation of this is both beautiful and subtle. It's not a very easy thing to translate brahmacharya, usually translated as celibacy or sexual continence. And that's a very narrow definition. Somebody asked my Guruji that, I am on a spiritual path. Should I give up conjugal relations? So the Guru laughed at him and said, if you do that, you neither have spirituality nor will you have a wife. So it is really not, it is not that suppressing sexual desires and sexual participation is not the way to gain brahmacharya. So nothing, in yoga, there's absolutely no suppression, and there's no morality. Morality in the very sense of commandments. Do this because it is good, blah, blah, nothing of that sort. Each thing is very deep and has its own very deep meaning, all right? So the meaning of brahmacharya is to live like God. Brahmacharya, to live like Brahma, all right? It is to reach a stage where sex disappears, right? It's a transmutation of the sexual energy. So yoga is not against sex, as I said, but what happens is that in the spiritual practice, it is the sexual energy, the sexual fluids, which are manipulated to give you that spiritual light. So as I said in the last talk, your body is the vehicle for the spiritual journey. So in meditation, what happens is that in the Mooladhara chakra, the sexual fluids are subjected to heat, and it's kind of becomes light and vaporous and starts rising, right? And as it rises, chakra by chakra by chakra, there is a transmutation of that sexual energy. So physically, what is sexual energy is what is transformed into samadhi. Remember this. Physically, what is sexual energy is transformed into samadhi. So as the sexual energy rises from the Mooladhara to the Swadhisthana, right? In the Swadhisthana, as it rises over there and as it penetrates the Swadhisthana, your fear of death goes away. And then it rises to the Manipura. And in the Manipura is the fire. So all your impurities are burnt and there's a sense of peace. Now you're moving up. Then it moves to the Anahata, and where the peace transforms into love. And then it moves into the Vishuddhi, where love transforms into silence. But that silence is very loaded. The entire existence is in the silence. And then it reaches Agnya, which is light. And then it reaches Sahasrara, where the masculine and the feminine meet. It is represented by Ardhanarishwar, right? So the need, the human need for contact with the opposite sex, opposite gender, is because as we are, our masculine and feminine energy, our yin and yang, are not balanced. So if you're a woman, you need male energy to balance you. If you're a man, you need female energy to balance you. And that is where the need for sexual relation arises. But that same energy, when it is taken up through yoga, up to the Sahasrara, it is completely balanced and you become a brahmachari. You start living like a god. So this is the real meaning of brahmacharya. It is not celibacy. By celibacy, you cannot reach the Sahasrara. In fact, it will work counter. So if so, the translation as celibacy as a practice is not the correct interpretation. Celibacy happens with yoga. All right, and finally, the fifth yama is aparigraha. You know, the fulfillment which arises in the state of brahmacharya, it leads to non-possessiveness. It is like you feel that I possess the world without possessing it. You don't have any legal document that I own this, own that, but the world is yours. There's no need for you. You don't have any needs. There's no need for anything. You're so fulfilled. There's no desire, no ambition, no ego. There's nothing of that sort. So, but in the ashrams, the yogi is encouraged for a short period of time to actually practice aparigraha. So he lives with one set of clothes. You read autobiography of yogis, you read Sri M's autobiography, for example. He talks about this. He lives with one set of clothes, begs for food. It moves from one place to another. He moved from one cave to another cave with his guru, right? And the reason for this practice is to free the mind, that, you know, I'm not stuck to a place. I I don't need to call any one place home. The whole world is my home, right? And what it does, it washes away your samskars. It washes away your possessiveness. And after the ashram yogi achieves this, he will return to the ashram. So it's not something that he practices all his life, but he just returns to the ashram. So it's a temporary practice uh, to break old habits. But when the yogi is firmly established in aparigraha, then he gets a siddhi to know all his past and future lives, right? In the next session onward, we will start covering the siddhis, but I've given you like a peek preview to it, right? So these are the five uh, yamas, the five restraints: ahimsa, satya, uh, um, what was the aparigraha, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. The five restraints, right? Now, with these restraints, we come to the next one, which is the niyamas, or the observances, or the practices which the yogi commits to. They are saucha, santosha, tapa, swadhyaya, ishwar pranidhana. These are the niyamas. Saucha is translated as purity, santosha as contentment, tapa as austerities, swadhyaya as self-study, and ishwar pranidhana is surrender to Ishvara. So these are the five fixed observances, right? So as I said, niyamas are the fixed disciplines necessary for the practice of yoga. And now we come to the observances. So purity basically means cleanliness. It is to keep the body clean. And the shloka actually says that if you keep the body clean, you develop a disgust for the body and a non-attachment to other bodies. But this again is a lost in translation kind of a thing, okay? Because the Sanskrit word used is jukupsha. Now, only way to translate jukupsha in English is disgust. But the problem with this translation is people start to think that the body is dirty, body is unclean, but that is not so. The body is a temple. The body is divine, right? But the meaning of this is a little subtle and it needs explanation. So there are three types of relationship we can have with the body, and you will, when I tell you what these types are, you will identify with. One are the people who are body obsessed. They spend disproportionate time in front of the mirror, they gym a lot, they use cosmetic products. They're totally identified with the body. They're so stuck in this body identification that for them to, to transcend the body is a very difficult task. All right. So the body obsessed, they're body obsessed. And on the other end, you find people who hate their bodies. They hurt their bodies. They are even suicidal. They are on the other extreme. And, mistreating the body in the name of religion and asceticism, flogging it, is completely un-yogic. Your body is a gift of the divine. Your body is the only vehicle which we can use to join with the divine. Your body is the vehicle of yoga, right? So between these two, between body obsession and body hatred, lies jukupsa. Basically, it is that I am in the body, but I am not the body. So the yogi is not deluded that the body is his self, right? The yogi simply treats it as a shelter, as a vehicle designed to take him home to his self, right? This is what is meant by indifference to the body, that I am in the body, but I'm not the body. This is what is the meaning of indifference to the body. Now, look at the conflict. So, body needs crowds, it needs company, it needs contact, it needs togetherness, it craves for others. The soul, on the other hand, craves solitude. So there's a tension here. And when you understand this, very deeply, if you understand this tension between the body wanting contact with others all the time and the soul saying, I want solitude, and this conflict, once you resolve this conflict, then the attachment to other bodies goes away. So the body needs crowds, warmth, clubs, societies. Whenever the body is other people, it feels good, but the soul feels starved in those situations because it needs aloneness. It's in aloneness that your soul feels perfect. And in aloneness, the body feels hungry for relationship. So this is the tension. And through yoga, this tension is resolved. So is dissolved. Let's not even try to understand how it happens. But when you do yoga, this automatically happens. This is a gift of yoga. Your both needs start getting fulfilled. You get into a rhythm, sometimes with others, sometimes alone, but it's a rhythmic movement. You're inside, then you outward, inward, absolute seamless movement is happening. And the goal of yoga is to move you from a body focus to a soul focus. The need to be in physical contact with others by and by withers away. And beyond the body, the power of concentration, control over senses increases, cheerfulness arises, and the yogi then becomes fit for samadhi. So this is, see the depth. Once you realize that you are a spiritual being and not a material being, then everything has got depth. And you can see why Patanjali has said these are the niyamas. Okay. The next niyama is santosha, basic contentment. It is cultivating content. It flows from purity. When you're indifferent to your body, as I said, that I am in the body, but I'm not the body. When you are really in that, then contentment automatically flows. Many times we think that when this happens, I'll be happy. But the truth is that, happiness is right there within you. Doesn't matter what the circumstances, you can tap into your happiness. You can, and so therefore contentment is really, really very, very, very important ingredient for spiritual progress. No sadhana can happen if you are discontent. But one who develops this santosha, very unparalleled bliss, happiness results, right? The third niyama is tapa. We are full of psychological, and actually physical impurities. We have toxins in our body, the toxins in our mind, right? And tapa is the practice of yoga. It releases physical toxins. It kinds of cleans up the psyche. Chakra by chakra by chakra, it cleans the psyche, right? and there's a healing. And without that healing, samadhi is not possible. When you're battling with your own, psychic battles, I mean, how can you clear your mind and, be in samadhi, right? So therefore, you need to release the toxins. You become supple, flexible. You need to have, slow rhythmic breathing. You need to generate that fire within you, increase your prana. You need to quieten your mind. And in actually in ashrams, the yogi also practices withstanding extreme heat and cold. Practices, right? And what happens is that when the body is purified with tapa, there's a tremendous new energies arises, new dimensions open up. And then the yogi starts slowly becoming ready for samadhi. Swadhyaya, as we said, is the next one, which is self-study. It is developing Sakshi Bhav, the power to observe, and it's a way to reach the divine. And it is internal. So going to temples, going to satsangs, practicing rituals, doing rituals, they have a role. They have a role. No denying that. They do purify you. But if somebody gets stuck in these, will never reach the divine. Divine can only be reached through yoga. And I'm using the term yoga in a very broad sense. So we know even Vedanta is yoga. So in a very broad sense, yoga sadhana has to be practiced. You have to go within to realize the divine. You won't find the divine in temples and all that kind of thing. It's the temples and all are kindergarten stuff, right? And so Swadhyaya is really actually going deep and deep into yourself, layer by layer by layer, till you reach the pure awareness, the Ishwar Tattva. And the man who is, or a woman who is meditative, has a very silent quality about him or her. And only that person who is very calm and silent can move inward to the innermost core, right? So that is the real essence of Swadhyaya. And how do you do Swadhyaya? As I said, just watch. Watch your relationships, watch your emotions, watch your fears, watch your anxieties. Just watch. Don't do anything. Don't interfere. Don't let your mind interfere. Don't let the mind analyze it. Just watch. When you're sad, watch. When you're happy, watch. When you're indifferent, watch. When you're hopeless, watch. When you're full of hope, watch. In desire, watch. In frustration, watch. The very watching will transform. We all have experienced it, that if you analyze what's going on, you go around in circles. You just watch, watch, watch. It will lose its grip and dissolve, right? And if you just watch, just do this self-study, Swadhyaya, violence will disappear, gratitude will grow. Nothing else is needed. Just watch. And only in the end, only your peeling of layers and layers and layers, and only pure awareness will remain, right? And Ishwar Pranidhana, as we said, is that you're peeling till you come to that inner awareness. And when you peel everything, you peel your ego, you peel your desires, you heal your traumas and everything, there's nothing left. That is when you surrender to pure awareness. That is when you surrender to God. So that has emptied you out, right? And surrender becomes simple. In our present state, we cannot surrender because we are a lot of things are pulling us, holding us. Jakar liya. वो जकड़ को हटाना पड़ेगा. Only when the jakar hataos, then you can surrender, right? So these are the yamas and niyamas. Now they may look very difficult for ordinary people, right? For a yogi, it's very key. A yogi who goes into the practice of yoga without yama and niyama will meet a very tragic end, right? But for us, what do we do? For us ordinary mortals, what do we do? We can't practice all this. We have understood this, but to get there, we need some baby steps. So what are the baby steps? So Swami Niranjanananda of the Bihar School of Yoga, what he did was that he came up with 6 sets of yamas and niyamas, which he says ordinary people can do. So what I'm going to do is, in each talk, starting from now, I'll give one set. So the first set is Mana Prasada and Japa, or happiness and Japa, right? So the Yama is happiness or contentment, and the Niyama is Japa, right? So what he says is that happiness is the best antidote for pain. So it's a state of mind which is internal and does not depend on any external circumstance. That's the truth. That's the reality. That happiness is within you. It does not require anything from outside for you to be happy. But that's the truth. But we don't experience it like that, because we have conditioned ourselves to depend on something for our happiness. So if I get a promotion, I'll be happy. If my husband praises me, I'll be happy. If my child gets into a good college, I will be happy, right? And if such causes are absent, then I will be unhappy. This is how we are conditioned, right? It is, these things make me happy, these things make me unhappy, right? But if we depend on external circumstances for our happiness, we will swing between happiness and unhappiness, and ultimately we'll remain unhappy. So, as you would have intuited, that yoga encourages you to tap into the positivity that exists within, and to be positive without any rhyme or reason, without any cause. This may sound outlandish, but with practice, it is very, very possible, right? Your anxieties, tensions, and frustrations will disappear if you practice happiness to begin with. Practice happiness, right? All you have to do, all Niranjananda says, and please practice it every day. It's very simple. When you wake up in the morning, close your eyes, go into your inner space, and when you are quiet, take a sankalp that today I'll be happy. Today I'll be full of happiness. And imagine your day going very well. And be centered in that inner, peaceful, quiet space where you have dropped that sankalp that I'll be happy today, right? And whenever unhappiness rears its head in the course of the day, close your eyes, just step back and, get in touch with that your sankalp. Get in touch with your quiet, peaceful space, inner space. And you will see that slowly, slowly your life will become more and more and more peaceful. You're reacting less, right? So this is a simple practice which you can do from tomorrow morning. When you wake up in the morning, close your eyes, just for a minute, 2 minutes, get in touch, just breathe in and out gently and deeply, and you automatically get into a quiet space. And in that quiet space, take a sankalp, aaj main khush rahungi. That's all. And leave the rest. Leave the rest to yoga. Leave the rest to Patanjali. Right? You just do this. Right? And to give this Yama muscle, Niranjananda says, do japa. It'll give this practice a lot of muscle. So Niyama is japa. What does japa do? It disconnects the mind from everything around you for a while. Right? When you do japa, all the thoughts start slowing down until you get totally absorbed in the japa, right? When you repeat the mantra, you'll find that your mood will improve. It'll again, the japa itself will put you in touch with your inner reservoir of happiness. It relieves the mind from its daily stresses. It allows the mind to recover. You give it that time to recover, right? And you'll always feel fresh and nice after a japa. So tonight and every night, before going to sleep, chant a mantra. If you have a mantra, well and good. If not, just chant Om 11 times, quietly, silently. Don't go Om, Om, Om loudly. Silently, just chant Om in your mind. But don't do it mechanically, like a task. Just breathe in and out slowly, quieten the mind, and when the mind is quiet, drop one Om in the silence. And experience that feeling for a few seconds, and then drop the next Om. Then again experience the silence. Om. So just do this japa tonight, and in the morning when you wake up, make the sankalp that Aaj main khush rahu. Okay, so these are very simple yama and niyamas which Niranjanananda has designed for ordinary people. So what Patanjali's yama niyama are for yogis who are serious about yoga, but this is a good starting point. So I've given you one set of yama niyama this time. Please practice. Next time we meet, I'll give you the other one. Okay. Thank you for listening. I'm open to questions.
Atul, may I ask you?
Yeah, I can.
This what is the duration suggested for this the nighttime or before bedtime? This one as well as the morning.
Start with 11.
Okay.
11. If you are more advanced, then go to 21.
Okay.
Go to 54. The maximum they say is 108. But up to you. But start with 11. 11 is good enough.
And Sankalp?
So just once, twice.
Okay, only one. But then I mean, it is something like again repeating the same Sankalp to yourself to kind of auto suggest to ourselves also. That is also
exactly. So what my Guruji has told me is that this Sankalp is not mechanical. Okay, it's not mechanical in the sense it doesn't matter that you do it 10 times. If you do it once in a very peaceful, quiet, intense space, even once is better than going in a mechanically. I have to do 10 times.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not a mechanical thing. It's the quality of the Sankalp, the quality of the jap is what is important. So you do it till you are satisfied.
I was saying, why not synchronize it with the breathing stuff? Now, slow breathing.
Yeah, sure. That's it. You should synchronize with slow breathing. Yes.
Synchronize it with that and take deep
absolutely.
breaths. Take like deep Om, extended Om can be the Om kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Same way, I take, depending on my breath cycle, have the Sankalp of that kind of duration also.
Okay, do that.
Slowly, I can.
Slowly. Today I'll be happy. Whatever you design your Sankalp with whatever works.
Okay.
Come what may, I'll be happy today.
Okay.
So just do this and you will see the effect. Just keep doing it. You will see that you'll become less reactive. You'll become more centered. You'll become more peaceful. You'll become more calm. And
I do Sandhya Vandana every day. I mean, so.
Okay. Yeah.
So there I do 100 japa of Gayatri mantra.
Excellent.
And there is part of it is also the deep breaths. Is all the 10 times we do that actually. I mean, as part of the Sandhya.
Atul.
Yeah, Vinod.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you very much for a very elaborate and a very comprehensive discourse you gave on the two very critical aspects of thank you very much for that. My doubt is only on a couple of points which you mentioned. One, of course, is the brahmacharya. Okay, because we see the ascetics, people who have given completely their lives to realize the truth,
Correct.
and they have, without exception, almost. Okay, if you disregard people like Janaka and some other people who are householders, say, look at Adi Shankara.
Yeah.
Or the sannyas parampara, which was started by him, the Dashnami. So it was very clear that for some reason they chose not to indulge in any, any activity where you lose your what we call the tejas. You get what I'm saying? So
I get what you're saying.
yeah. So suddenly to say that no, that is a wrong interpretation. Because Shastras say brahmachari is one who has taken the vow of brahmacharya.
Yes, yes.
And brahmacharya is celibacy. It's very, very, very cut and dried. There's no two ways on that. And they say that, as you mentioned rightly, the fluids which otherwise get lost in the course of the activity is preserved, and that ojas helps in developing a very strong willpower. See, all of this Yama, Niyama doesn't come easy. I mean, you have to be
very difficult.
and you need a very strong will. You have to. Your mind is very fickle. The senses are outgoing. They're constantly engaging you with the world. Now you're talking of a Yama, and you're talking of a Niyama, where you're trying to bring everything.
Control everything.
Vinod Bhaiya, can I just interject for 1 minute?
Let me complete, Rajiv ji. Just let me complete.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, so with that sort of understanding, which came through the way our sannyasins have been, or the entire parampara, the Guru Sishya parampara, where people stay with the Guru. It's a very ascetic environment. You don't have. This is absolutely taboo. Any physical indulgence, especially of a sexual nature, is complete taboo. So, my sense is that we have to give credence to that, and not just say that no. You can. It's a wrong interpretation. So that's the only thing I thought I will bring to your notice.
No,
Yeah.
to just take that.
अतुल भैया खाली एक विनोद भैया क्योंकि एक फ्लो में थे तो ही इंटरजेक्टेड for the thumbnail I will request Jyoti Behna to just take your जैसा आप दिख रहे हैं, just to take your photograph and send it to me, because I want a live photograph on the thumbnail. Jyoti Behna, is it possible? You said you're tech savvy, right?
You're on mute.
You're muted, Jyoti Behna. Jyoti Behna, you're muted.
Yeah. Right. No, so I'm using my laptop after a very long time. So what do I need to do if
I only need Atul
you need a
Bhaiya's
screenshot.
as and where photograph.
Okay.
So
Vinod.
Yeah.
So as you know, there are very many different paths in Sanatan.
Jyoti Behna, can you do it?
I'll just look it up.
Yeah.
No,
Atul Bhaiya,
please carry on. Yeah.
Please continue. Please carry on.
So, so the thing is, the people you named, they were very evolved people. So, I mean, they are, Shankaracharya and all very, very evolved. So there were sannyasis, but even in the the ashrama system, the first 20 odd years you're a brahmacharya, then you get into grihastha, and then you vanaprastha and all that stuff happens. But in yoga, in hatha yoga, and in tantra, which is very linked to yoga, this suppression of the sexual desire is seen as counterproductive. What you're saying is correct. You're correct that if you expend that energy, then that energy is lost and therefore it comes. But the suppression of it, if you do it like by suppressing it, it's even worse. It is because the mind is a very, very delicate instrument, and that suppression can lead to forms of psychosis, right? So if it comes naturally, when you practice yoga, naturally your sexual desires will come down as you move up the chakras, right? And so Hatha Yoga and all are very, very. If you read Hatha Yoga Pradipika, for example, it's very non-moralistic. There are higher levels of Hatha Yoga, include Maithuna, the Vajroli Mudra and so on and so forth. So different sampradayas have different traditions. So you got to take it like that. So the yoga says suppression is counterproductive. By
Yeah, even Atul, even the Ramakrishna Parampara, the Vivekananda and all the great, people who have followed that, and they have a lot of Devi Bhakti, and they have not only the Vedanta but other practices also ingrained. So by and large, you will find that there is a very positive. I mean, I will not call it a suppression. It's just that. People at a young age, if they develop a fondness for the Supreme, they have a burning, what we call the mumukshutva, very strong desire for liberation. They are willing to take, to go to any extent. And if they know that it could be a hindrance, this could be a something which will not make me progress. So, even to the extent of, just suppressing it. I mean, in the sense, not letting it. And joining ashram, doing seva, and finding other ways of.
If it dissipates other ways, it's fine.
Yeah, sublimating it through service.
You sublimate the service, it's fine.
Yeah.
No issue. But in आज कलयुग में तो हम लोग गृहस्थ लोग आध्यात्मिक हो रहे हैं. तो जैसे हमारे गुरुजी ने बोला कि आप गृहस्थ लोग हैं, आप ये छोड़ देंगे तो आपका आध्यात्मिक भी नहीं होगा, आपकी बीवी, आपकी वाइफ भी नहीं रहेगी.
लेकिन एक उम्र के बाद अतुल क्या है,
वो दूसरी बात है
ना. कब तक how long, the point is
वो बात सही है.
Especially when we go into a phase of life where you're not so active, you're no longer having a livelihood, and you're not,
that's fine.
So at that stage, it has to be sublimated. Otherwise, there's no progress. I mean, Ramakrishna, followers are pretty strong in this ideology that you have to give it up. You have to put all attention on the sadhana, and that's the only way for you to achieve.
I understand that, but all I'm saying is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma is there's so many paths. So if you look at Tantra, they use sex, they use sex to rise up. They use it to rise up. So it's the exact opposite kind of a thing. No right or wrong. I mean, I've got Ramakrishna Mission in own way is very good. It works.
Yeah.
So, but there are different paths to this thing. Tantra uses sex at some level. Tantra uses sex uses sex to move it up from the Muladhara chakra to the Sahasrara chakra. In union, in the act of sex.
Okay, I wouldn't know that. I'm not at all familiar with that. So.
Yeah. But anyways,
so I take your point. If there is some path which has,
there are different paths, that's all. But your point also is correct. That
so from the Patanjali point of view, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, that's what we are reading right now, right? We are not doing Tantra right now, are we? No.
So but even Hatha Yoga says don't suppress.
Where exactly? Can you point to a particular shloka which says that?
I will have to take it out, but I'll check it out. I'll have the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. I'll share it with you one-on-one separately.
That'll be great.
But very, very clear, the Hatha Yoga is non-moralistic, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Jyoti, you were asking something?
Yeah, so I think maybe what they're trying to say is that maybe you can channelize it.
Yes,
You can channelize it, and you do not use it in a way that is negative.
yes,
That you're
mm,
not thinking of that and that only when you're supposed to be doing something else.
yes, that's true.
So there's a time, there's a place, and you also do not use it in any harmful or
Right,
negative way,
right,
because we've
right.
seen with the violence on women and thing happening. So maybe
No, no,
this is what you're trying to maybe say, that you channelize it, you don't suppress it,
yes.
because suppression of anything leads to, as you said, trauma and psychosis.
So
And
so please
huh,
go ahead. Sorry, Jyoti. Go
that's
ahead.
it. That's all that I wanted. I was
So
thinking. I mean, how can we relate to it?
basically, the sexual energy is the one which will take you to samadhi. That
Right.
is that is the ingredient that we possess to take us samadhi. When you are in samadhi, basically it is sexual energy transmuted.
It's a transformation, right?
It's transmuted
Yes.
into that.
Is it the same as the Kundali? I mean, they say raising the Kundali, from the
Ah,
Muladhara chakra to
yeah,
Sahasrara.
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Kundali yoga is it same?
Kundalini, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. You could say that.
Mm.
But basically, what happening is the physical process which is happening is tejas is being generated, and that tejas is vaporizing the sexual fluids and raising it.
Taking it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, Atul, this
Mm.
seems to be a very physical sort of an interpretation.
Mm.
And I think we got to read between the lines. We got to see it from I thought a more subtle way. And to my mind, it's a lot to do with awareness. It's a lot to do with
Oh
your,
yes. Mm.
the it manifests actually when you are in deep meditation or in awareness. The pranic kriyas start taking over. They start
Yes.
manifesting.
Mm.
And I don't see the relationship with the seminal fluids or whatever.
Mm.
I think it's more of a sort of a design, a very miraculous design of the human body and the human
Mm.
system,
Mm.
where the moment the mind is at rest,
Mm.
the moment your brain activity has come to a very minimal,
Mm.
there are some very mystic processes which start
Exactly.
happening, and that gives the sense
Mm.
of some sort of an energy moving up,
Mm.
going through the chakras and going to the
Mm.
Sahasrara.
Mm. Mm.
So I don't think it's that physical, the
So that
seminal fluid becoming
so
gaseous and then right. No. That's non-scientific as well as non-yogic. I'm sorry to say that, Atul.
no,
But
I think you're coming from a more Vedantic perspective. It
I know
appears to
from an
be.
experiential. See, I
Uh,
have also, like you have meditated, I also have
yeah.
spent time on that. And I know that these pranic kriyas start taking over the body. It's like the spirit
Mm.
starts manifesting in its own,
Right. Right.
in its own
So the
way.
Vedanta will explain it with
And you
with
don't
the
have a
gunas,
control. No, there
with
is
the gunas.
actually, this is again a part of possibly the yogic tradition,
Yeah.
because you seem to have lost control. You don't control that anymore.
Mm.
You just let it happen.
Yeah.
You just become like a witness. Let whatever
Yes.
has to happen happen.
Absolutely.
So that I think the Yoga Sutras have spoken about the Kundalini moving
Mm.
upwards.
Mm.
I don't know which chapter is that in, but certainly not in the first, right? This
Which one?
chakra philosophy and the theory from the Muladhara to the Swadhisthana to the
No,
Manpuri to the
that is there in Hatha Yoga Pratipika में है वो सब कुछ.
उसमें है. अच्छा.
इसमें
But
पतंजलि
sutras
योगा
में
सूत्र
नहीं
में
है.
नहीं
सूत्रा में नहीं है.
नहीं
हाँ.
सूत्र में नहीं. You have
बिल्कुल
नहीं.
नहीं है. उसका
बिल्कुल नहीं.
जिक्र ही नहीं है.
जिक्र नहीं है. चक्र का जिक्र
हाँ.
नहीं.
So that's
और
what we are
चक्र
trying to.
चक्र का जिक्र नेक्स्ट चैप्टर में अपना विभूति पादा में जो नेक्स्ट चैप्टर जो है सिद्धीज का उसमें चक्र नाड़ी वो सब आ जाता है.
Okay. Chalo, we'll hear you the next time. When are you having the next session?
Oh, okay. So what I'm going to do is, actually the third chapter, I normally do not talk about it to very lay audiences because they find it very incredulous and they say, "What are you talking about? How can a man become invisible, small, big, large, ego?" But these are siddhis which people get. But I think now the consciousness of the world is right to to talk about this. So I'm going to take a little break, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks break, to put it together, and then I'll come back and it's very fascinating because the inner subtle body is the microcosm it mirrors the macrocosm, right? And as you purify the microcosm, the barriers between the macro and the micro dissolve, and that's why you get power over prakriti, power over nature. So that is the very broad thing, and that chapter explains to your question, chakra by chakra, what happens. So that chakra comes in very strongly in that chapter.
Okay.
Right. So it talks about the sun and the moon, for example, but the sun is actually the Mooladhara, the moon is Swadhisthana, and so on and so forth. Right. So yes, after a
I thought
short
that was the
break,
Nadi, right? The Ida, it was the Ida and the
it's
Pingala.
also Ida Pingala. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
It's also
Atul,
Ida.
just one question. Are the siddhis relevant for a person who is involved in sadhana? Like you said,
Siddhis-
Ashtama siddhis, the so-called Anima, Manihima.
Yeah.
Are they relevant?
So see, that is
From
exactly
our thing.
So the point is that siddhis come to a yogi.
Yeah.
If a yogi progresses sincerely, the siddhis will come to a yogi.
Correct.
And I think it is time for the knowledge says that the siddhis will come. It is a byproduct. But if
Okay.
you get stuck in the siddhis, that is where, when I said that if you have even a trace of the ego, you'll go astray. Because that kind of power is very difficult to deal with. And all our saints, Ramakrishna, everybody has said, never ever show off your siddhis.
That is right. Yeah.
So the moment because the whole idea is of spiritual progress is to subdue the ego. The moment you show off siddhis, your ego is back. And it comes back so strongly that the yogi will fall to such depth that he or she will not be able to come out.
So is there any point, Atul, then to discuss it? I mean, if there's something which
I think
you're not going to exhibit it, anyways, it is not going to sort of manifest.
I know. That is why I didn't do it earlier, but I think time is right now for us to know that these siddhis are possible.
So
and no, there's nothing. So just to know,
exposure.
just to know, knowledge, and it also tells you that your inner mechanism mirrors what's above, so below.
Okay.
So for that knowledge, it is important.
Yeah.
For that knowledge, it's important, and there has to be a certain level of awareness for this. Otherwise, if you do this, then people will misuse it.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? We will misuse it, or people will be incredulous. What nonsense is this? How can it be? It's too out of the world. So, but I think the consciousness is right just now. The other day there's a guy called Rajarshri Nandi, and there's a YouTube show called TRS, the Ranveer Show. It's called. So there's a young person who he's a very popular YouTube channel, and his audience is
very diverse.
the audience is a very westernized, what should I say, English speaking kind of crowd, and also a Western crowd. And Rajarshri Nandi came and gave Tantra as it is. I mean, he gave Tantra means, all the meat eating, use of alcohol, use of sex in Tantra, meditating on dead bodies, Aghori, he gave it all.
I see.
Unfiltered. And I saw his viewership in 7 days, 7 lakh viewership.
Obviously, people are it. These are the mystic things which attract people.
People are interested in mysticism. So, and I think we are a small crowd. So
Yeah, but
I
they are
thought-
lower pursuits, isn't it? Aren't they? Lower
Huh?
pursuits. isn't it?
Obviously.
Yeah, suppose we lower pursuits. I mean,
Yeah. No, but it's not lower or higher. It is just a byproduct of doing yoga.
Incidental,
But yeah,
but
it-
we
it
don't
is-
focus on that. The idea is to,
You don't focus.
no,
You,
it may
you-
happen
It,
automatically
it
also for
happens,
you.
but you go further. You don't get stuck there.
Like the Bageshwar Dham guy is now the most
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
about guy.
Yeah. You don't get
Bageshwar
stuck.
Dham guy.
Yeah, look at his following. Bageshwar Dham is being heard more than many of these Sadgurus
I know,
and
but
Shrishis of the world. You know, he's got a
but
higher
the masses want that. Masses need that. Masses need some sucker, somewhere
Yeah,
to
but-
go, and my problem will be solved.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
yes.
Atul,
Masses want them, right?
yeah, Atul, but you know, that is where that role of people like you and Chandrasekhar ji and Rajiva and Jyotika, all of you guys are, you know, I mean, you have to spread the right values. I mean, bhaiya bach jao. Don't get into these, you know, practices which are going to take you away from your core pursuit, and it will build your ego. And so once you know that for a fact, to just for viewership, kya karne ka yaar? And what the hell? Maybe Rajiva wants viewership, but you don't need it, right?
But
To
he's
chhod do yaar.
Bageshwar Dham guy.
With the core, Atul, what you are convinced about, you know that this is going to be detrimental. If I spread these in
No,
society,
this is not detrimental. You won't reach it, na? An ordinary person will not reach this.
but वो
this is-
समय बर्बाद करेगा ना, त्राटक करेगा, तरह तरह की जो है ना
नहीं करेगा।
साधनाएं करेगा, समय बर्बाद करेगा अपने,
अरे-
जब उसे जपना चाहिए, जब उसे भक्ति करनी चाहिए, सेवा करनी चाहिए, उन सब से वो
वो
भटक कर
सब नहीं सब करो,
इसमें
वो सब
चला
करने से
जाएगा।
वो सिद्धि आएगा. But so it is not something which is at least in this audience, it's not something which is strange. And
Chalo.
it's not something weird.
Anyway, I'm just expressing my thoughts.
No,
You're
I
the
understand.
boss.
And no, it's valid. Your thought is valid. So it's something which I thought about. Earlier, I have not done it. But
Yeah.
I just thought the time is right now because of something happening in the world consciousness is happening, and it's time is right to leave this knowledge to whatever best. I mean, it's not that I'm an expert. It is one area where in my own development I don't have that right insight myself. So,
Right.
So I have to just, because that's why I'm asking for 4 weeks time to put it together in the best possible manner.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So got to send.
Okay. Thank you. Good
Thanks,
night,
Frank.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
being.
Thank you.
Namaskara. Namaskara.
Namaskar. Thank you.
Namaskar.
Jyoti Bana, I have sent you a chat message. Just check it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll 1 minute.
अच्छा भैया रिकॉर्डिंग बंद कर देंगे तो वो चैट तो चलते रहेगा ना?
नहीं, we are done.
नहीं मतलब रिकॉर्डिंग अगर बंद कर देंगे और जूम अभी चल रहा है तो चैट में मैसेज जाना आना हो पाएगा ना?
हाँ बिल्कुल हो पाएगा.
ओके ठीक है.